Thank you for joining us on Salt and Pepper Unleashed. This ain't your grandma's nursing home. Today's guest is someone who has spent a lifetime capturing moments. John Mahoney is not only a GVS resident, but a legendary racing photographer and Hall of Fame inductee, known for capturing the raw intensity, emotion, and beauty of one of the most thrilling forms of motorsport. Through his lens, John has documented not just races, but history, victories, heartbreaks, and the unmistakable spirit of the racing community. Today, we'll go behind the lens with John to talk about how it all began, the moments that defined his career, the risks and rewards of trackside photography, and what it means to be recognized for a lifetime of storytelling through images. John, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. Good to be here.
All right. Well, I do appreciate it. And this is real deal. I'm just going to start off by saying this is legit. This is not a simple hobby. This is, professional caliber stuff here. So take me back to the beginning. What got you into it to begin with? How old were you? What drew you in? Take us back to the start.
Probably living in Indianapolis, I'm around 10 years old or so, and I became just infatuated with the Indy 500. I'd listened to the broadcasts of qualifications and so forth. This is like 1953. And I even started a scrapbook at the time with clippings from the newspaper and so forth. Loved the whole thing about Indy. And I remember in 1955, I asked Dad, do you suppose we could go to the race? And he said, yeah, let's do it. And that was in 1955. I didn't miss a race until about 2022, I think was the last time I attended. That's the old people can say things like that. Yeah, that was like 60 years or so. But the race changed a lot. But at any rate, that was how I really got infatuated with it. I have to mention another thing that happened is I met a friend, Gene Crucian, at IU, 1962. We became fast friends.
Pun intended?
Pardon?
Pun intended?
Yes, fast friends. Very good, very good. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, we did a lot of things together. We promoted races. We leased racetracks. The Indianapolis Speedrome was one, and Rensselaer, Indiana, we had races there. We published a yearly yearbook for sprint car racing for about 15 years. Wow. We hosted some raucous Indy movie parties during the winter. We'd lease hotels around Indianapolis in the Speedway area and show racing movies, and we'd get 200 or 300 people to attend. And owned a race car for a while, and really just participated in just about every aspect of the sport. And I can really come up with a date almost when it got more of a career possibly, or beginning of a career, and that was my ex and I lived in Sacramento in 1965, and a big race was coming up at the California State Fairgrounds, and Gene Crucian and I had figured out a way to get into races. We didn't have a background. We couldn't tell people we were famous or associated with any sort of publication. So we came up with a fake publication, Northwest News. And Gene had some fancy stationery printed, and he would write the racetracks to get credentials, and it was amazing how it worked. Really? We couldn't get away with something like that today because they check on it, but back then it worked. So he wrote—
No kidding.
Yeah, he wrote the promoter of the race in California, requesting photographer's credentials for me, and didn't hear anything. And I called him up a couple of days before the race, and no, John, I didn't hear a thing. So I was all right. So the promoter, J.C. Agajanian, actually a famous person involved with racing and owning race cars and so forth, but he was a promoter. The night before the race, he staged a party at one of the local hotels, had the drivers, had movies and all sorts of events, and I attended. And I'm just walking in down the hallway, and here he comes toward me. So I sucked it up and said, Mr. Agajanian, I'm John Mahoney from Northwest News. We requested credentials but didn't hear anything. And he says, I remember that. I wondered, a paper in Munster, Indiana, requesting credentials for a race in Sacramento, California. And he said, oh, well, and he reached in a pocket and gave me a pit pass. So I had my pit pass.
Wow.
So I went to the race the next day and shot the race. And a couple of days later, at a newsstand, I saw Charger Racing News. Hadn't heard of the paper ever, and I picked one up, and it was published by a friend of mine out here in Indianapolis. And I was really happy to see it, and maybe a little homesick too. And I think, wow, back in Indiana, they're publishing this paper. So I sent him a letter saying it was great to see it, and enclosed some of my photos. And about a week later, I got a big package, and here's copies of the paper with my photos published and my name and photo credit. And he also wanted me to be the Northern California representative and all sorts of things. And seeing my name with photo credit, that was the hook.
That was
and
it.
I thought, I like this. So,
Wow.
So that's pretty much the way it started.
Okay, that is a phenomenal background story. We don't have enough time for this show because I've got so many questions for you. So let's go back. So 1955, first time the Indy 500. By the way, what do they call it? The greatest
Spectacle in racing
on earth. So 1955 to 2022, 67 years, and you didn't miss
Not a one.
single race.
Not a one.
That is wildly impressive. Wildly impressive. So let me ask you this. All the things that you did promoting and you had your own yearbook and you did watch parties, was that just purely love of racing and everything that you could kind of just immerse yourself in racing? Or was there a kind of an economic component to that? Meaning, did you make money off of all those ventures, or was this simply just to surround yourself with it?
It was kind of a break-even deal with my partner Gene. It was for the love of it.
Yeah.
It's one of those deals. We probably would have done it for free, but we managed to eke out a few bucks for the movie parties and our magazine and so forth, and promotions too. But like I say, that was just a bonus. We had a slogan, John Mahoney Adventures. We incorporated when we started promoting races just for liability reasons and so forth. But it was sprint car, pictorial, and fun. And believe me, we did have fun too.
So now, your own race car, was that indeed a sprint car?
No, it was a midget, which
Okay.
is kind of a misnomer. A midget is just a smaller car than a sprint car. Still very adult race cars, and you can get hurt just as badly in them.
Absolutely.
But yes, we owned a midget. A fellow by the name of Roy Carruthers pestered us for a couple, 3 years to buy one. And we actually bought it from Robin Miller, who used to be a sports writer and a pretty famous racing personality here in Indianapolis. We bought his race car, and Roy drove it pretty well. And then I got out of it after a couple of years. That was enough for me. Yeah. Gene lives up in Munster. I'm here in Indianapolis, and Roy's just a few miles away. So it's, John, we need this. Yeah. John, we need that. John, we can get a good deal on this. And so at any rate, I lasted for a couple of years. Gene continued on and bought a couple more cars.
No kidding.
Anyway, it was a real experience being on the owner's side of a race car rather than taking pictures of it.
Now that, I imagine, there's only a small percentage where that becomes lucrative.
Yes.
The ROI, there's probably one end of the spectrum, or actually there's probably no gray area. You're either in the 10% that makes money or the 90% that you're sinking into your habit. As
they say, how do you make a small fortune in racing? Start with a big fortune.
That's right. Mm-hmm. I like that. I've never heard that one before, but sounds pretty accurate though. So any racing of your own, do you have the love for it to that extent, or?
I never really wanted to be a driver. When I was around 16, I helped a couple of brothers work on a stock car that they were going to race at the Speedrome. And the first night that we brought it there, the driver took it out, and hot lapped it. And then his brother took it out. And then he said, John, your turn. And I had no idea they were even going to ask me. And here I am, 16. I was so nervous I could barely keep my foot on the throttle, but did a few laps, and that was it. We did drive our midget at the speedrome too. Just one afternoon, the promoter said, "Sure, bring your buddies and take a few laps on the midget." So that was fun. That was it.
So let me ask you just kind of real life question here.
Mm-hmm.
You're driving on 65 and it's open road. What's just natural for you?
Probably 65 or 70.
Oh,
I'm
come
not a hot
on.
rodder. I'm
All
really
right,
not
all right.
not a hot rodder.
We may revisit that question later on when we get a little loosened up here. But that's pretty, before we go any further, I want to share a personal connection that I'm sure you'll be familiar with. So I grew up in Jackson County, specifically Brownstown, Indiana, one of the best dirt tracks in southern Indiana, and actually one of my first actual jobs other than just working on the farm was cleaning the pits and the grandstands on Sunday morning. And that's not for a weak stomach, let me tell you that. That was interesting. That was my kind of initial exposure to dirt track racing, which I wouldn't recommend for many folks if they want to stay in it. So, so let me ask you this: of all the open wheel racing you've covered, which did you enjoy most, and why? What sets it apart specifically?
Well, I started with Indy cars, like I said, but a couple of years after 55, I went to a sprint car race, and it was a Terre Haute, and that was really what bent the twig. My favorite Indy 500 drivers, here they're driving sprint cars on a half-mile dirt track. The action's just incredible. It's probably, to my way of thinking, the purest form of racing. There's no pit stops, no strategies. The races are short, 30 or 40 laps. Like they say, when the green flag drops, the BS stops. And it's just the purest form. And at the time, I was thrilled because all my Indy heroes are now driving the sprint cars, and particularly on a dirt track, which was pretty exciting too.
Yeah, a lot more. I would imagine a lot more skill associated with a dirt track than an asphalt or other.
Yeah, in a lot of ways. Yeah, you've got to learn how to broad slide in the turn and so forth. But,
so, and just for our listeners and viewers that don't know, with the Indy 500, you're only seeing, depending on where you are, you're only seeing a portion of that. Whereas a dirt track, you're watching every turn, every bump, every glide, every slide. I mean, you're seeing and hearing absolutely everything. And when those drivers pass, you're seeing their facial expressions. And like you said, the BS stops. And you might even see a little BS flying around if someone doesn't know what they're doing in there. So, and to that point, sprint car racing, it's fast.
Yes.
It's loud. It's chaotic. What does it take to capture the perfect shot in that environment? And how do you anticipate kind of those perfect moments before they become such?
A lot of luck, really. That's number one. The longer you go to the races, you learn the drivers that are going to take more chances than others, good spots on the racetrack where there's more action, finding a good place to shoot. Years and years ago, you pretty much had the run of the track. And then insurance guys started showing up and said, wait a minute here. We can't let these guys stand right outside this turn or so forth. So, and just really paying attention and following what's going on.
Yeah, which that kind of, I've got a question that I've been interested to ask. You talk about insurance guys coming along, and now have there been moments where you knew you were risking, yourself for that shot, and you kind of stood in the midst of kind of facing that? I mean, it's a lot of motor and metal and flying dirt coming your way. Have there been moments like that where you've stood in the face of that danger and captured kind of a ultimate shot?
Yeah, these are situations that I really didn't want to discuss with my sweet wife, Martha. If she knew what was going on at the track, she probably would have had second thoughts about how things are going. But like I say, early, you could take positions that weren't particularly safe, right outside a fence or whatever. I remember a race at Phoenix years ago. You could stand right by the guardrail, and the car is coming out of the turn. A midget, again, got crossed up and he started flipping, and he was coming at me, and he's starting to flip on top of the guardrail, and I'm right here and the guardrail's there. There's a chain link fence about 10 feet this way, so I'm between the fence and the chain link and the guardrail. And so I dove down under the chain link fence, and he continued on top of the wall and then ended up back on the track. Wow. So, but the irony of it was I got my foot caught under the chain link fence, so I'm down there all bent over. And so the track people in the turn are saying, "We have a photographer down in the second turn," and all that sort of stuff. But anyway, somebody helped free my foot from under the fence. But there's other times, I know at Kokomo sometimes we could shoot right outside the track too. And besides dirt flying, there was rocks the size of golf balls too. And you catch one in the head and you're going to be hurting. But, it's going for the good shot too. So,
yeah. So is that kind of a worst case scenario? Your photographer friends give you a hard time when you get your foot caught in the chain link fence and they announce it over the loudspeaker?
It was a 3-day race, and there were still stories around me getting hit, on the last day of the race.
Oh, my goodness. That's awesome. So, with this, capturing those kind of crazy, chaotic moments, but there's a lot of emotion, I would imagine, as well, pre-race, post-race, and the people, the racers, and a lot of victories and a lot of almost victories, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with a famous race car driver, Ricky Bobby.
Oh, yeah.
If you're not first, you're last. And so I'm sure you've seen a lot of those victories and just sheer excitement, but absolute heartbreak as well. So tell me about, just capturing, potentially the twisted metal, hopefully not twisted, but sometimes becomes that way, but also some of those twisted feelings that you see before and after.
It's an intense sport, that's for sure, and particularly with sprint cars too. And I've never driven one, but it must be an addicting experience for the drivers. I've had personal driver friends get seriously almost killed, spend weeks in the hospital, and as soon as they get out, they're jumping right back in.
Yeah.
Sprint cars in particular are probably the most lethal cars in racing, just because of they have gigantic engines, they're lightweight, and all sorts of physical things that I really can't appreciate. But in 1966, they killed 5 drivers in one season. 5 drivers.
Goodness.
If that would happen today, they'd ban the sport.
Yeah, absolutely.
In those days, it was he died what he loved doing, and it was an expected part of the sport, the danger. But it's. I think that's the reason I hang around it, and I'm close to it too, just to see the intensity and the devotion of those guys. And like I say, second place is a first loser.
Yeah, that is impressive that someone can be so committed to a passion that literally standing in front of death and they're getting right back out there. So you talk about just how wildly powerful they are. Do you have a take on, how many horsepower, how many miles per hour? I mean, talking about a half-mile track, you got to think there's a lot of accelerating going on. You're never hitting top speeds, but what kind of mile per hour rate are they getting around a half-mile track like that?
That's a good question. I could probably bluff my way through that somehow, but probably, 120 or 130 for a half mile or quarter mile, and that's 4 turns.
Yeah.
So they are incredibly. I mean, they do wheelies really easy. They don't try to do wheelies, but it happens all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's just so much power.
That's wild. So help me understand from your perspective. When I look at these are some phenomenal finished products that you've been able to create. Would you consider yourself more of an artist or more of a documentarian?
Documentarian, probably. If you're shooting thousands, I estimated probably shot 500,000 images over the years. You're bound to get some that people label iconic and so forth. But just to record the history of the sport, and particularly 4 magazines, publication, and so forth. So, but I'm lucky. I've gotten a lot of good images too.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, so kind of a twofold question here. It's got to feel some kind of way to be inducted into the Hall of Fame for your work over the course. Tell me a little bit about how that felt, and then maybe talk about some of the specific iconic images that you've captured that you felt kind of helped your total body of work propel itself to that magnitude.
Well, I was incredibly fortunate to be inducted into the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame. If you're a sprint car fan, Knoxville, Iowa is Mecca. They have a half-mile track there, famous half-mile. They stage some incredibly big, expensive, as far as huge purses and so forth. So Knoxville, Iowa is a place to be if you're a sprint car fan. About 20 years ago, they constructed a museum outside the track, first-class museum, 3 stories high, and lots of cars and so forth. And they also instigated their Hall of Fame. And in 2005, I got the call that I was inducted. I was speechless, absolutely speechless. Yeah. And actually, my first thought was, God, there's so many photographers that belong in there, and me?
Yeah.
So I was really, really fortunate to be inducted there.
It's interesting as we kind of go through some of these questions. I'm sensing a very familiar and consistent tone here, and it's that of humility, of luck, of you just happen to be in the right place at the right time. But I'm a firm believer that once is an instant, twice is a coincidence, 3 times is a pattern. I would argue that there is some skill behind what you've done to get you to this point and kind of have this body of work. So I do appreciate the humility in this, but you've got to you have to be proud of yourself to be able to kind of put yourself at top tier of what you do and what you've been able to do over your career. So I just want to call that out.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, I did work at it. Plus, I prided myself in being reliable and delivering things on time and so forth to publications. I was chief photographer at USAC for about 30 years, United States Auto Club, USAC, the sanctioning body. And that resulted in another Hall of Fame induction with the United States Auto Club Hall of Fame, and that happened in 2024. And in some ways, I think I'm getting away with something because I've had so much fun doing it.
Yeah.
But I did work at it, and I have to give a shout out to my sweet wife, Martha. Without her backing and support, it wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
She had to put up with a laundry room that was also a dark room for many years in our house, put up with me gone weekends throughout the summer, getting home and developing my own film and so forth in the slash laundry room, dark room, and so forth. So
now, I've seen some of those dirt tracks and how they get it. I imagine it was a mud room at times as well.
It could be, yes, indeed, yeah, and tracked all sorts of dust in, yeah,
absolutely.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So you kind of alluded to this, but I'm curious, what other life lessons do you feel that you've kind of been able to acquire or really just develop over the course of this profession, whether it's patience or perseverance, whatever it may be? I would imagine that there's a lot of qualities that you've developed over the course of this career.
That's a good question. I was never a technology type. In fact, I remember just not too long ago at one of the trade shows, somebody that had heard of me or had seen a lot of my work says, "John, tell me, what models of cameras do you use?" And I couldn't remember the model number of the cameras I used. The digital cameras that we've been using the last few years will do 1,000 tricks. I only knew about 10. That's all I needed, and that's all I cared about.
Yeah.
So I just perseverance, trying to keep up with everything, coming through, and that sort of thing. And being around people that are intense all the time at the racetrack and just admiring what they go through. That's part of the attraction too.
Yeah,
for sure.
absolutely. And it's almost kind of you're getting some adrenaline rush through almost vicariously. You're imagining yourself in that car. I would imagine you kind of have to be able to capture those perfect shots like that. So I'm curious. You kind of talk about, I forget what model I used. Do you still, kind of take part in photography? What I guess, to what extent is that hobby and that passion and that profession still alive in you right now?
I'm done. In fact, I'm really done because in the last few months, I've sold my whole collection of images, negatives, everything.
No kidding.
To the Museum of American Speed in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Okay.
They have them all. And in fact, I'm in the process now of transferring my website to them. So I'm done. I kept one camera and one lens, but I haven't touched it in 3 or 4 years. So I miss it in some ways, but in other ways I'm done.
Yeah.
I keep track through a lot of different sites on what's going on in the races and so forth, and keep in touch with a lot of my friends through Facebook and so forth. But I don't miss it. I've done it for 60 some years. That's enough.
Yeah, that's a good amount of tenure of devoting yourself to something. But your entire collection, Museum of American Speed. Let me ask you this: what do you hope that people who get to experience your work for decades to come, what do you hope they take from literally decades of your work that now is going to be preserved forever?
Yeah, I mean, through my images, they'll have a good idea of how things were back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and so forth. They ended up in the right place for sure. I was good friends with a historian at the museum for years, and he said a few years ago, John, if you ever think about stopping, and doing something with your collection, give me a call, and we'd be interested. So, and that just happened in the last couple of years. I've been talking about it. It's the best place for them. Their emphasis, in fact, the museum was, Newsweek had a fan poll of favorite motor racing museums, and they finished #1.
Wow.
It's a very high-class outfit. They're just beginning to consider buying collections of negatives and photos so they can be a conduit for publications or whatever. So they're in the right place. In fact, they're going to keep the name of the website to John Mahoney Photography. So it's I'm anxious for it. Martha was supportive of the whole deal. The one person that had a little problem was my son, JJ.
Oh.
And he said, "Dad, this is your legacy," but I wanted it to continue, and I wanted it to continue in good hands. And there's no way he could do anything with it, and so the contract, he helped draw up the contract with them too. And in case the museum goes out of business or decides they don't want to be in the photo business anymore, the collection will revert back to the Mahoneys. So that's a good thing for him, And
good little stop loss in there. But to your point, what better way to really protect that legacy and ensure it lives on other than through that avenue? That's phenomenal. So John, now I'm curious. So what's next? What's next for you? What moments are you chasing now?
Well, that's a good question. #1, Martha and I are happy to be here at Greenwood Village South. Home ownership was wonderful for a whole several years, but now I can pursue the garden. I have a raised bed back of our house. I love to cook. We love to travel. Like I say, I keep in touch with my racing friends. I have files of thousands of photos I call Our Gang, and it's just photos of parties, things going on after the race and whatever. And those are kind of fun to put on Facebook too, because a lot of people remember those. So I'm not very good at relaxing. I keep busy one way or another most of the time. So,
well, that's phenomenal. It sounds like if you pursue your next chapter of life with even a fraction of the passion that you've devoted to this career, it's going to be wildly successful as well. So I look forward to seeing what that is and what that raised bed can produce. Imagine just bountiful crops coming out of that raised bed.
we had the best tomato crop I've ever had last year.
There you go.
And,
I rest my case.
It's been good. But one more shout out to Martha, too. There was a very popular bumper sticker years and years ago, and it said, "We interrupt this marriage to bring you the racing season."
Oh, yes.
And a lot of marriages are totally interrupted because of racing, that's for sure. But she supported me throughout the years in one way or another and let me play and have fun at the racetracks.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, John, I'm going to leave you just this last question. No pressure, but this is our signature question. So if you could be remembered for one thing, personally or professionally, what would it be and why?
My legacy, I guess, is the racing photography. And to be honored, as good at it, that's enough for me.
Yeah.
To be able to record it and pass it on and have it appreciated and so forth, I'm incredibly lucky. I've told Martha, and she is a witness, that I've had more fun than human beings should allow to have, and particularly at racing, particularly with my partner Gene Crucian. It's been fantastic.
That's awesome. Well, if kind of preserving, protecting, and kind of projecting that legacy is it, what better way to do it than what you've done? So kudos to you. I mean, that's a masterful approach to a lifetime passion and profession, and being able to kind of bundle it up and put a bow on it and send it off into the future for tens of thousands of others to enjoy over years and years to come. That's a legacy I think many would be envious of. So kudos to you. Appreciate you sharing this. I'm sure we'll snap some photos and put this up on the podcast as well, because just looking at the covers here, I mean, you've caught it all. Victory. I mean, there's dirt flying. There's literally you want to talk about tangled metal. That one definitely had to be on the cover, didn't it? Mm-hmm. Literally, you've got one car with four tires down and one car with 4 tires up. That's quite a shot right there. So again, John, really appreciate your time. Appreciate you sharing your life's work and your love of photography, specifically of all things speed and racing, and look forward to sharing this with many others.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.